Last week, Sarah Michelle Gellar shook up Gen X's world by announcing that a reboot of the WB series Buffy the Vampire Slayer was in the works. Thanks to the rise of streaming services, shows that were popular in the past have either gotten second lives in the modern era or have been reborn to fit the current times. Some have worked, some have failed miserably, so this got me thinking, how could a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot work in the modern era? Before we get into that, let's give a quick history of the franchise. Buffy started out as a feature film first in 1992. It followed the story of a stereotypical California Valley girl named Buffy Summers, who was very shallow and only cared about clothes and guys and being the most popular in school. One day she is met by a guy named Merrick who explains that he's a watcher and that it is her birthright to be a vampire slayer. She initially ignores his message up until the point that people at her school start going missing, and she's eventually faced with the vampires, which then makes her take it seriously. Once she does, she trains hard before eventually saving the school dance from a vampire attack led by a vampire named Lothos and his sidekick. By the end, Buffy is a full-fledged vampire slayer with a better life attitude, leaving her mean girl ways behind. Much like the Twilight films, the Buffy the Vampire film was a financial success, but mainly liked by the teenage girl audience, thanks to a who's who cast of young stars, including launching the careers of Swanson, Hilary Swank, and David Arquette, who would go on to be big names throughout the decade. The inclusion of major Tiger Beat heartthrob Luke Perry, who at the time was well into his Beverly Hills 90210 fame, probably didn't hurt its high female viewership either. For everyone who wasn't a teenage girl, it was probably best known as the first appearance featuring Paul P.B. Herman Rubens, after his P.B. Herman character ended due to getting caught doing controversial things at an adult movie theater. Yes, people under 30 used to have to go to theaters to watch stuff that you see on the internet for free now. The 80s and 90s were a dark time. Anyway, writer Joss Whedon, not being happy with the direction of the film, ended up creating a TV version which in his mind closely resembled his original script for the movie. This was a reboot in nearly every way, as where the film had a lot of light and comedic moments, the show was much more dramatic, which set the tone for a lot of the future series that would appear and be popular on the network that would eventually become the CW. I say nearly every way since the first season somewhat hints at the movie having happened in a way, but very indirectly, as Buffy's de-aged in the TV show. One of the biggest changes is in the vampires themselves, who now take a much more non-human, demon-like form in the Buffy TV show. A huge departure from the movie where they're just pale-fanged humans with demon-like ears. The only exception to this is when Buffy meets the king of vampires himself, Count Dracula, and his brides, aka the Three Sisters. In that episode, they just fang out without the wrinkled Klingon forehead treatment the rest get. As for the series itself, after the first season, the show took on a more Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. format, in my opinion, with Buffy now getting a clique of high school mates that help her hunt monsters. Coincidentally, or not, series star Sarah Michelle Gellar would go on to play Daphne in an actual live-action version of Scooby-Doo, so foreshadowing, I guess. By the end of the show's run, Buffy and the gang's love lives seemed to be the main plot point, with major vampire antagonist Angel becoming Buffy's love interest before getting a spin-off of his own, followed by day one vampire antagonist Spike becoming her love interest from that point to the series' end. Not to say there wasn't anything for guys as well, as the show introduced us to a few decent female vampire characters. The first one we see is the character Darla, played by Julie Benz, whose importance throughout the series gets greater, especially once the spin-off Angel reveals she is who turned him. Then there is Drusilla. Played by Juliet Landau, she first appears in the series' second season, along with her then at the time lover Spike, who I just talked about. Her character being very memorable as she both has psychic powers and is quite insane, acting very childlike. Drusilla and Darla's lives are very much intertwined throughout the series. Then there is Harmony, the only show regular to start off as a human before becoming a vampire antagonist. She starts off as a mean girl, competing with the show's other mean girl stereotype, Cordelia, but is eventually turned in the show's season 3 finale and resurrected as a ditzy Valley Girl vampire, who would also be a regular character on the spin-off Angel. I'll probably do a more in-depth recap of these girls in the future. You also have a few one-offs of the heroes becoming vamps, with Buffy having one and Willow being a vampire in 2 alternate realities, one of which I've already covered. Oddly enough, despite the show not being popular with men, a lot of adult film companies would jump on the coattails of the series and change the names of completely unrelated adult vampire films to make it seem like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer parody. Quick trivia though, there's only one actual Buffy the Vampire Slayer adult parody, and that didn't come out until 2012 for some reason, a decade after the show's final episode. I guess they ran out of things to parody.
What, I'll get hurt? I mean, come on, I'm a crucial member of this Scooby gang. Besides, what's the worst that's gonna happen? I'm gonna lose an eye? Like, that'll ever happen. And besides, even if it did, Isn't that how the drummer of Def Leppard lost his arm? And look how rich he is!
He lost it to a horde of vampires?
Yep, something like that.
But enough about that. Now that we're caught up, what do we know about the new series? Well, very little. We know it's being developed for the streaming app Hulu, which currently has the streaming rights to the original series. We also know that Sarah Michelle Gellar is executive producing, as well as will be reprising the role of Buffy, but not as the series star, as most reports are stating that the Slayer in the new series will maintain the young adult age range the movie in the series had, so she possibly becomes the new Slayer's watcher, like Merrick in the movie and Giles in the original TV show. That brings up the big question. How do you make a show to bring the Gen Z audience to an IP they're too young to remember, while also not alienating the audience that originally made the series famous, who are now their parents? Is it impossible? No. We've seen it happen successfully a few times, but not with vampires. So what do you think? Can a Buffy reboot work in the modern era? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you like these recaps, please leave a like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to know every time I update. There is now an option to be a channel member where you'll get access to exclusive recaps from late-night vampire catalogs like Showtime, Cinemax After Dark, USA Up All Night, and much more. If you want to help my channel grow, please check out my Patreon, where members can get exclusive content that can't be uploaded on YouTube, along with download options. Link is in the description.